53% of Britons want to change their voting system. 80% feel they have no say in government decisions. Today we're asking, is it time for a political revolution in the UK? The numbers paint a stark picture. Only 27% of Britons report high or moderately high trust in their national government, falling significantly below the OECD average of 39%. This statistic reveals a widening chasm between the British public and their political representatives, a divide that threatens the very foundations of democracy. As trust erodes, so does engagement. The consequences of this political disengagement could be far-reaching, potentially reshaping British society and its demographic institutions. What happens when a nation's people feels disconnected from those who govern them? We will explore in this video the roots of this crisis and the potential paths forward. We'll examine how Brexit, immigration policies, and economic challenges have contributed to this growing divide and the story behind Britain's loss of trust in their political leaders. As we delve into Britain's political landscape, a question looms large. How deep does the public's dissatisfaction truly run? The answer lies in a recent survey that paints a grim picture of the relationship between the British people and their government. The British Social Attitudes Survey reveals a staggering statistic. 79% of the public believes the system of governing Britain could be improved significantly. This matches the record low recorded during the Brexit parliamentary deadlock of 2019. It's not just a fleeting sentiment, it's a deep-rooted dissatisfaction that has been brewing for years. But what's driving this widespread disillusionment? One major factor is the government's handling of the public services, particularly the National Health Service. Among those dissatisfied with the NHS, a whopping 86% believe the system of government needs significant improvement. This correlation suggests that the perceived failure in managing crucial public services is directly impacting trust in the overall governance structure. The ongoing cost of living crisis has further exacerbated public dissatisfaction. In these challenging economic times, 72% of those struggling financially state they almost never trust politicians to tell the truth. This statistic is particularly alarming as it indicates a severe breakdown in communication and trust between the government and its most vulnerable citizens. Trust in politicians has hit rock bottom. The survey shows that 58% of respondents almost never trust politicians to be truthful in difficult situations. This widespread skepticism creates a significant barrier to effective governance and policy implementation. The British Social Attitudes Survey paints a stark picture. All in all, it appears that people's trust in governments and politicians and confidence in their systems of government is as low now as it has ever been over the last 50 years, if not lower. This statement encapsulates the gravity of the situation, highlighting a half-century of declining faith in the political system. Perhaps most concerning is the sense of powerlessness among the British public. Only 20% believe that they have a say in government decisions. This statistic reveals a profound disconnect between the governed and those who govern, raising questions about the health of British democracy. From NHS woes to economic struggles, from political mistrust to systemic doubts, these numbers tell a story of a nation grappling with a crisis of confidence in its political institutions. The British public feels increasingly alienated from those meant to represent them, creating a dangerous chasm in the democratic process. So we must ask ourselves, what are the long-term implications of this widespread disillusionment? How can trust be rebuilt in a system that so many view as fundamentally flawed? And crucially, what role does Brexit play in this unfolding drama of political disenchantment? Brexit's role in this political drama is more pivotal than many realize. Remember the promises of a brighter, more prosperous post-Brexit Britain. The reality might shock you. How did a decision meant to empower the British people lead to such widespread disillusionment? The answer lies in the stark contrast between expectation and reality. A recent survey reveals a startling shift in public sentiment. 71% of respondents now believe the economy is worse off as a result of leaving the EU. This marks a significant increase from 51% in 2019, highlighting a growing realization that Brexit's economic promises have fallen short. Perhaps even more telling is the waning popularity of Brexit itself. Only 24% of respondents now believe Britain should be outside the EU, down from 36% in 2019. This dramatic decline suggests a profound reassessment of the Brexit decision among the British public. The erosion of trust extends beyond general public opinion. Even among those who initially supported leaving the EU, faith in the government has plummeted. Nearly half, 48% of Leave voters now express that they almost never trust the government to prioritize the country's needs over party interests. This represents a staggering 23-point increase since 2020, indicating a severe breakdown in the relationship between Brexit supporters and the political establishment. This shift in sentiment among Leave voters is particularly significant. It suggests that the very demographic that championed Brexit now feels betrayed by its implementation. The survey highlights a growing perception that Brexit has failed to deliver on its two primary promises: economic benefits and increased sovereignty. As the gap between Brexit promises and perceived reality widens, its impact reverberates through every aspect of British politics. The public's faith in the system of governance itself is being tested, with 86% of those dissatisfied with the NHS believing the system of governing needs significant improvement. It's clear that Brexit-related disillusionment is exacerbating existing frustrations with public services. The implications of this trust deficit are far-reaching. As confidence in the UK's governance continues to decline, some experts warn of a potential threat to the health of liberal democracy. The popularity of populist outlooks, rather than diminishing, may find fertile ground in this climate of disillusionment. Moreover, the perceived disconnect between Brexit promises and the reality faced by the public has contributed to a broader sense of political disengagement. This widening chasm between the governed and those who govern raises fundamental questions about the future of British democracy. The Brexit saga serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of overpromising and under-delivering in politics. It demonstrates how quickly public sentiment can shift when reality fails to align with political rhetoric. The enthusiasm that once surrounded Brexit has given way to skepticism, disappointment, and, in many cases, outright anger. As we continue to witness the fallout from Brexit, it's becoming increasingly clear that its impact extends far beyond economic and trade relationships. It has fundamentally altered the political landscape of Britain, reshaping public trust in institutions and challenging long-held assumptions about democratic participation. While Brexit dominates headlines, another force has been silently reshaping British politics for decades. In 1997, only 3% of the public considered immigration a key issue. By 2016, that number had skyrocketed to 48%. What caused this seismic shift in public opinion? The answer lies in a carefully crafted narrative that has transformed the immigration debate in Britain. This narrative, shaped by political rhetoric and media portrayal, has turned what was once a non-issue into a lightning rod for public discontent. The turning point is the transformation that can be traced back to the infamous Bigotgate incident of 2010. This event, involving then Prime Minister Gordon Brown, marked a significant shift in how immigration was perceived and discussed publicly. It opened the floodgates for a more hostile and diversive dialogue surrounding immigration, setting the stage for years of heated debate and social division. As the narrative around immigration evolved, so did its framing in political discourse. Immigrants, once seen as economic contributors, began to be portrayed as burdens on society. This shift in perception led to the establishment of a hostile environment policy designed to make life difficult for illegal immigrants, but often affecting legal residents as well. The media played a crucial role in amplifying these negative narratives. Exaggerated claims about the impact of immigration became commonplace. For instance, the Daily Mail predicted that 4 million migrants would arrive from Eastern Europe, a claim that stoked public anxiety and resentment. These portrayals, often at odds with economic realities, contributed to a growing sense of unease among the British public. However, the narrative that immigration was a problem was not inevitable. It was shaped by the way politicians and the media chose to discuss it. This deliberate framing of the issue contributed to a political atmosphere of hostility towards migrants with far-reaching consequences. Ironically, while the narrative painted immigrants as a burden, studies have shown that EU migration, particularly from A8 countries, produced net economic gains from the UK. This stark contrast between perception and reality highlights the power of narrative in shaping public opinion and political trust. The consequences of this narrative shift have been profound. It has led to significant political ramifications, including the rise of parties like UKIP and the framing of immigration as a key issue in the Brexit debate. The hostile rhetoric surrounding immigration has also been linked to the rise of far-right sentiment in Britain, exacerbated by events like the Windrush scandal. Perhaps most troubling is the human cost of this narrative. The portrayal of immigrants as cheating the system has created a climate of suspicion and hostility. This has led to real-world consequences, including the return of many Polish workers to their home country, contributing to a brain drain that impacts the UK economy and society. Yet there are signs that public sentiment may be shifting once again. Recent polls indicate that a significant portion of the population now recognizes the contributions of immigrants, suggesting a potential change in narrative. This shift underscores the fluid nature of public opinion and the potential for new narratives to emerge. As narratives around immigration transform, an even more fundamental shift is taking place in British political consciousness. With a record 53% of the public now supporting changes to the voting system, could we be witnessing the birth of a new era in UK democracy? The winds of change are blowing through the corridors of Westminster, and they carry with them a growing demand for political reform. As trust in government hits rock bottom, with 45% of people saying they almost never trust any government to prioritize the nation's needs over party interests, the call for a radical reimagining of the political system is growing louder. At the heart of this movement is a push for electoral reform. Current first-past-the-post system has long been criticized for creating parliaments that don't accurately reflect the will of the people. Now, with over half of the British public supporting a change to allow smaller parties a fairer share of MPs, the momentum for reform is building. But electoral reform is just the tip of the iceberg. Political experts arguing that restoring trust in British politics will require a complete overhaul of governance styles. Professor Sir John Curtis emphasizes that addressing public concerns about the trustworthiness and efficacy of the political system is crucial. It's not just about policy changes anymore. It's about fundamentally altering how politics is conducted. Increased transparency is another key pillar of potential reforms. In an age where information is power, citizens are demanding greater insight into the decision-making processes that affect their lives. This could involve everything from more open parliamentary debates to real-time disclosure of government spending. Perhaps most exciting are the proposals for greater public participation in decision-making. Imagine a Britain where citizens have a direct say in major policy decisions, where town halls and online forums become hubs for vibrant political discourse. This isn't just a pipe dream, it's a vision that's gaining traction among reform advocates. Of course, the path to reform is fraught with challenges. Established political interests are likely to resist changes that threaten the status quo. The very politicians who benefit from the current system may be reluctant to support reforms that could potentially diminish their power. Yet there's a growing recognition that change is not just desirable, it's necessary. The decline in trust and confidence in the UK's governance is fueling support for constitutional change. This groundswell of public opinion could be the catalyst needed to overcome institutional resistance. The potential benefits of such reforms are immense. A more representative parliament could lead to policies that better reflect the diverse needs of the British public. Increased transparency could help rebuild trust in political institutions, and greater public participation could reinvigorate democracy, transforming disengaged citizens into active participants in the political process. While the challenges are significant, there's a palpable sense of hope among reform advocates. They argue that by aligning government actions more closely with public sentiment, it's possible to bridge the chasm that has opened between the people and their representatives. As we've explored, British politics stands at a crossroads. Trust in governance has plummeted, with only 20% of Britons expressing high or moderate trust in national leadership. The Brexit aftermath and immigration debates have deepened this divide, leaving many feeling voiceless and disconnected. Yet amidst the disillusionment, a spark of hope emerges. A remarkable 53% of Britons now support changing the voting system, signalling a hunger for meaningful reform. This groundswell presents an opportunity to reshape British democracy from the ground up. The path forward isn't just about policy changes, it's about reimagining how politics works. From local community initiatives to national reform movements, every citizen has a role to play. As Professor Sir John Curtis notes, rebuilding trust requires a governance style that truly reflects public interests. The future of British democracy isn't just in the hands of politicians, it's in yours. What role will you play in shaping it?